Hello everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we are back again. I'm going to continue now with our ongoing series of classic anime movies, and I'm going to concentrate now on one of the most famous and distinctive titles that I can vividly remember was part of the big anime revolution when it broke out within Western culture in the early to mid 90s, and that was Wicked City. This was initially released in Japanese theatres in 1987, and later on it was released on VHS by Manga Entertainment in 1994. It's based on a series of novels by Hideyuki Kikuchi, and it's the directorial debut of Yoshiaki Kawajiri, and it's from the production company of Madhouse. Now, this kind of triumphant of creators and producers was also responsible for other great classics such as Ninja Scroll and Cyber City Oedo 808, two of my most famous animes ever. And Wicked City, when it broke out, it was very notorious and very famous for its very adult, mature tone of explicit and graphic violence and sex scenes. It was really one of those standout kind of titles that broke people into the whole world of anime and really caught people's eyes with the kind of different tone and adult subject matter within animation. Now, the setup we have here is that we're seemingly in a dark future where there's a kind of coexistence between humans and demons within the dark world. Now, these beings consist of mutants and monsters who take on human form. And overall, within various hundred of years, there's been a peaceful harmony and existence between the two sets of species. You get the occasional group who break rank and kind of integrate more with the humans, but generally there's kind of been a peaceful truce between the two. And we have a government agency known as the Black Guard who are there to reinforce and protect this truce from a beings or certain set of radicals who are opposed against this coexistence, and they therefore look to kind of break the harmony between the two species. Now, we have an emergence of an old mystic called Mayat, and he's coming in to make a crucial sign in to kind of reinforce this treaty and peace between the two species. And the Black Guard have assigned two agents to protect Mayat against the radicals who are looking to assassinate him and break the potential truce between the two beings. The two guards or the two agents that we concentrate on are called Taki and Maki. And Taki is a very charismatic, old school style kind of James Bond character on it. He's very kind of the ladies' man of the group, and Maki is a very sophisticated, very model, statuesque females, and they have an initial kind of tension between them when they initially meet up, but over the course of the story they develop a lot more of a chemistry and love and affection for one another throughout. So what's so good about Wicked City? Well, as I mentioned before, it is extremely and very adult in its tone and its direction. It's very stunning and dark, and it's very atmospheric, and it's filled with constant scenes of tension and imagination, and there are supreme elements of horror and supernatural, very similar in tone to the likes of David Lynch and David Cronenberg, where we get this really kind of intense and vivid scenes of horror and transformations, and we get a lot of sexual explicit scenes. So this is definitely not one for the faint hearted. This is definitely tense, notorious anime totals that I spoke before. And particularly in the first half of the movie, we get sequence after sequence of tension filled and really intense sequence as we see Taki encounter a lot of the radicals. We see great scenes and sequences amongst the airport, and later on when we encounter a kind of safe house, we see very dark metamorphoses of monsters and demons as they look to attack both the agents on it. And it's really very vivid and compelling to watch. You are always on the edge of your seat. There's an air of unpredictability as you're not sure what mutants are going to turn up next, and it really does compel you to the screen and the storyline. It's very vivid and well animated. Even though the animation is old from 1987, it still holds up today, especially if you watch it on the remastered version or the Blu-ray version. It's a great restoration. We get this huge kind of contrast of blue and purple, kind of dark vivid colours, and it really works throughout. Lots of sequences are very built up and very well staged throughout on it as we seem to kind of progress over the story, and the two agents really are fighting for their lives as they go on to protect Maya, who really is more of a funny kind of comedic relief. He's very perverted and he's constantly wanting to go to strip joints, and he's reading all kinds of pornographic material, and he's making all sorts of advances towards Maki, as the more serious roles are played by Taki and Maki, and they're really the three main characters. We don't really get much more into the radicals. All we know is that they're opposing the treaty and they want to stop it, and that's really the limit of characterization that we get within those roles. So yes, very vivid, very stunning, very intense, with explicit sex scenes and violence alike. And like I said, it compels you to watch the movie throughout. If there's any kind of flaws within the stories, I would say it's a bit weak in terms of its plot and the story. As I just mentioned, we don't really get too much depth into the radicals and why exactly they want to break up this treaty. As I mentioned, there's a peaceful coexistence, so the beings from the dark world, as long as they keep to their own jurisdiction, they're allowed to go free and do as they please. So it's never really fully established as to why they want to break up the treaty and why they kind of want to disrupt the harmony. And also, I think the chemistry between Taki and Maki is very average at the best. It doesn't really take too much time to really develop a whole kind of relationship between the two. It's one really more out of coincidence as such, without giving too much away. But again, there's not really a lot of chemistry between the two leads on here. So yeah, as the story progresses and the film progresses, it actually, I think, gets a bit weaker in terms of its story. Once it comes out of the very vivid and intense action sequences and it settles down to really build onto its story, there's not really as much there in terms of the world building that it wanted to create, certainly in the first half of the story. And I think the ending overall, without spoiling anything, is a bit weak and doesn't really have a lot of substance to it. Now, I did mention in my Ninja Scroll review that how Wicked City and Ninja Scroll have very similarities in terms of its plot. Now, I can't really hold this against Wicked City since it was released before Ninja Scroll, but I think if you watch Ninja Scroll, you'll see there's a bit more towards the story, there's a bit more depth and layer to the overall plot, and I think Wicked City suffers a bit from that. When you come out of the kind of horror sequences, there's not as much there. So if I was going to give Wicked City an overall score, I would give it an 8.1 out of 10. Vivid, very stunningly dark, atmospheric, intense sequences, very sexually explicit, as I warned before. But once you get that and you try and cut beneath the surface, if you like, there isn't as strong a story, there isn't as much of a substance there as what I think you would find with other animes that were released around that period and shortly after. So those are my thoughts on Wicked City. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Was there something that you enjoyed a lot? Did you think it was amongst those famous and distinctive animes that were released by that time? Or do you think it's a bit weak once you get out of the action sequences and the story isn't as compelling, as involving as what you would have liked it to be? So those are my thoughts for now. Let me know what you think in the comments below. That's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.